So for those of you that remember the intro video, we said about these fingerprints in the paintwork that we want to try and get out. And I've also noticed that we've got quite a big scratch just along here as well. So we're going to really try and work on this panel, get these fingerprints out that have been in it for years now. We're going to give it a good wash down, we're going to give it a rinse down, we're going to clay the panel, we're going to go top to bottom, or top to bottom, not top to bottom, get it really clean as it can be, and then we're going to get some compound on there and see if we can just compound that top layer and get rid of these prints. Okay, so it looks a whole lot better already. That's not a drive, that is the door here. But obviously what we need to do next is clay the car. So what we've got is just our clay. It's just blue clay that I'm using today. I've just moulded it into a nice dish shape, nice kind of the right size. And then obviously to complement that, we've got our clay lube, which we'll be using, making sure that we're never rubbing the clay onto a dry surface. We always want to make sure that it's nicely lubricated. So what we're going to do now is just again start from the top, working our way down the car and just picking up all that clay. The closer we get to the bottom, you can actually hear it as the bar runs over it, as the clay runs over it. And you can actually see that if I get it so it's in the sun properly, you can actually see all the tar coming off into the clay, and that's exactly what we're trying to get off, all of that dirt, all of that grime. As we get that, rather than keep rubbing it into the paintwork itself, what we're going to do is just fold the clay bar over, just give it a couple of folds each time, just working the clay into it, so we're always working with a nice clean bit of clay. Okay, once you're done with that clay and the lube, just going to give it a quick dry down, just with a nice lint-free cloth. Okay, it's looking a whole lot better already, but we can really still see these fingerprints. To be fair, they're not actually coming out that badly on the camera, but here, kind of in front of me, they're a lot worse than they actually look. In particular, you know, this scratch, I think that's coming out really well on the camera. We can see that goes all the way along. So, you know, it's looking pretty good, it's looking pretty shiny, it's not too bad, but it still needs a bit of life bringing back into it. There's a few more scuffs here and there, a couple of little marks. So we'll get the compound out and see if we can really bring this back up. Okay, so this is the polisher we're going to be using. It's got the multi-speeds on there, so 1 to 6, that you can lock it in on your particular speed that you want it set at, so you're not going to go too aggressive. It's just got a 5-inch head on there with a Velcro top in. We're going to start off with an orange head, which is quite abrasive. It's kind of one of the stiffer, harder sponges, and then we're going to move on to the softer, much softer black head, and then before we move on to kind of the cotton wool head, which is going to be obviously our final touch. We're going to use this turtle wax polishing compound today, so light to medium as it says on there. It's worth noting on here that it says to apply a cool clean surface, so we know it's clean. It's as much in the shade as we're going to get today without putting the car in the garage or anything like that. And it also says to put on kind of a moist sponge. So what we're going to do is dip this in our water first, give it a good squeeze so it's nice and moist, give it a little wring out, put it on the polisher, turn it on so it flings off as much water as possible, and then we're just going to put some compound, just dot it around onto it before we then put it onto the car. Okay, so we've just dotted some compound polish onto the pad here. Like I say, we've given it a good soak in the water, we've given it a good squeeze out, so it's a damp sponge, shall we say, or a damp top, and just with this compound on. So with it splodged on, we're going to turn the polisher on and just gently work this in. We're not going to put too much pressure on, we're not going to shove it and force it into the car, we're just going to go nice and easy. And every now and then what I'm going to do is just add a bit of moisture to the pad to make sure we're not drying out too much. So with that nicely worked in, what I'm going to do is just give it a quick rinse down, and you can see obviously where the sponge was wet, it's gone all over this door as well, and obviously up the window a little bit there, just out of scene. So with that rinse down, what I'm going to do is just swap over the heads now and pop this one onto the machine. So that's really been worked in now. That's I think I can just about see that scratch slowly disappearing. I can still see it, but it's not as bad as it was. So we'll carry on. I'm just going to give it a little bit more time with this, and then we'll move on to the next step. With that really buffed in, really worked into it, just giving it a minute to dry. I'm just going to give it another rinse down again just to get the worst off. Okay, so the next step for me is going to be to use some of this T-cut polish. I know people say that T-cut is too abrasive and you're only meant to use it for old paint. The car's 10 years old, sorry. So removes scratches, cleans and shines, restores paintwork. That's exactly what we're trying to do. It's looking pretty good already, like I say, but I have used this before quite a few times without doing the polishing, without doing the compounding, and it's always yielded really good results. So I'm going to use this again now. I'm going to get this back onto the black sponge, and we're just going to dab this on, work it in and work it all the way around onto this panel, and then we'll work it off again, polishing it all the way in, buffing it all the way up, and then we'll see how we get on. At the end of it, what we'll then be able to do is give you some good feedback and results as to exactly how good this is, so you know whether or not to use it on your car. So that's gone on nicely. You can just see it there, just give it a nice little cloudy effect just as it's drying. It's still a little bit moist, a little bit damp, shall we say. So I think now's the time. I'm going to swap the black sponge over. We'll get the nice cotton soft pad on there. Okay, so there we go. We've got a nice cotton pad on there. So now nice and slowly, nice and gently, I'm just going to start to work this in. Again, I'm just going to do exactly the same as I've done before, just going from the top, just working the way down. Okay, so I haven't gone over that with a softer cotton pad. What I'm left with is just some of the harder T-cut kind of polished bits that, for whatever reason, just didn't want to come off with that cotton pad. So I'm just going to go over it again with this dry lint-free cloth, and just to try and get those last few bits off. But it's actually now looking really, really good. Okay, I'm pretty happy with that. That's not too bad at all. It's come up really, really well. The intention for today, or the requirement, was to get those fingerprints out that were somewhere there, and they have completely gone. We've got them perfectly out. That scratch that was there, it is still there. It's really faint. I don't even know if you can see it on the camera, to be fair, but I can see it just really faintly. So again, we're really happy that we've been able to get that out. This polish, like I say, I've used it before, I've used it again now, and it's given us, well, I mean, you can see the results there. It's absolutely fabulous. Just about see that scratch there. But hopefully for someone that's been really useful, the results of that, if nothing more, knowing that using that T-cut on your paintwork is actually okay. It's actually brought it up really, really well. I'm really happy with it. What I'm going to have to do now is just give the rest of the car a going over. So again, hopefully that's been useful. Give us a like down below if you've enjoyed it. Hit subscribe if you've not subscribed already, coming up here now. And yeah, thanks for your time, really appreciate it, and see you in the next one. Cheers.